5 years after Marcus starts investing $500 a month, he checks the account. He has contributed $30,000. The market has added only about $6,700. 5 years of compound growth, and the portfolio has paid him back barely more than 1 year of deposits. That feels wrong because Marcus pictured a straight line. $6,000 after 1 year, $12,000 after 2, $60,000 after 10. But compounding follows a curve that stays almost flat for years, then bends upward as the balance grows. So when does the portfolio finally start adding more than Marcus does? In a clean 8% model, around year 10. Change the return, and the takeover can move from year 8 to year 19. Even doubling the monthly deposit may double the balance without meaningfully changing the crossover year. We are going to find that line, follow Marcus across it, then break the smooth chart that produced it. Marcus is 31 and works in logistics. After rent and bills, he has carved $500 a month out of his budget to invest. That is $6,000 a year. He begins with nothing and invests at the end of every month. The portfolio earns an illustrative 8% annual return, compounded monthly. No taxes, no fees, no bad years. People call this compound interest. In a stock portfolio, it is really compound growth. Returns earning returns. During year 1, the account gains only about $225. That is less than $19 a month, about one streaming subscription. Marcus deposits $6,000. The portfolio adds $225. He is doing nearly all the work because the percentage has almost nothing to work on. Marcus is building the balance that compounding will eventually use. Call this the build phase. After roughly 7 years, the account reaches about $55,000. Marcus supplied $42,000. Growth added about $13,000. Useful, but Marcus is still the engine. Around year 10, the balance reaches roughly $91,000. During that year, the portfolio adds about $6,750. Marcus deposits $6,000. For the first time, the account adds more than his paycheck does. Call this the crossover point. You can estimate the line on a napkin. Take 1 year of contributions and divide by the expected return after costs. 6,000 divided by 8% equals $75,000. That is the rough threshold. Monthly deposits and timing push the model's actual crossover closer to 90,000. The trigger is not a famous round number. It is a ratio. That creates a result most people do not expect. One investor deposits $300 a month. Another deposits $500. A third deposits $1,000. At the same return, all three reach the crossover in almost the same year. The larger contributor builds much more wealth. But that portfolio must also beat a larger annual deposit. Both sides rise together. Contributing more changes the final balance far more than it changes the crossover year. A starting balance behaves differently. $10,000 moves the crossover to roughly year 8. At $100,000, growth may beat Marcus's $6,000 annual deposit in the first year, but the return assumption moves the answer most. At 4%, the crossover arrives around year 19, near $169,000. At 8%, it arrives around year 10 and $90,000. At 10%, it arrives around year 8 and $72,000. Same deposits. 3 takeover dates. This is where Charlie Munger's first $100,000 rule becomes useful and misleading. Munger put it bluntly. The first $100,000 is a bitch. Marcus reaches $100,000 around year 11. He has contributed $66,000. Growth has added roughly $37,000. The curve is visible, but growth still represents only about 36% of the account. At roughly $250,000, growth has supplied more than half. At $1 million, roughly 80%. Call this the dominant zone. Growth is no longer merely beating 1 year of deposits. It is becoming the main source of the total balance. Build phase, crossover point, dominance zone. 100,000 is not a universal switch. It simply falls near the crossover in this $500 model. Now let Marcus's story split over one ordinary decision. In the first version, he starts today and invests for 30 years. In the second, he waits 1 year, then invests the same $500 a month for 29 years. Same return. Same finish date. Only the starting year changes. Starting today produces about $704,000. Waiting 1 year produces about $646,000. Marcus skips $6,000 of deposits, but the final gap is about $58,000, nearly 10 times the amount he did not invest. The missing dollars were not special, they simply lost the most years of possible growth, and early dollars can disappear another way. In year 4, Marcus's car transmission fails. The repair costs $7,000. He has no emergency reserve, so he sells part of the portfolio. The crossover point moves from year 10 to year 11. By year 30, that $7,000 repair has reduced the ending balance by roughly $56,000. The repair did not cost only $7,000. It also removed 26 years of possible growth. That makes an emergency reserve part of the compounding strategy. It protects the base during the years when every early dollar has the longest time left to work. Before trusting the curve, Marcus must also subtract the quiet costs. A 1% annual fee reduces the assumed return from 8% to roughly 7%. Across 40 years, the crossover slips from year 10 to year 11. The ending balance falls from about $1.61 million to roughly $1.24 million. A small percentage delays the crossover and cuts the finish. Low costs do not make compounding exciting. They simply let Marcus keep more of it. Taxes depend on the account. Inflation moves a different finish line. $500 a month at 8% for 30 years produces approximately $704,000 in nominal terms. At 3% average inflation, that represents only about $290,000 in today's purchasing power. The account can cross the nominal line while the real purchasing power line is still catching up. Then there is the biggest problem with the model. Returns do not arrive smoothly. The long-run nominal return of the S&P 500 has been around 10%, depending on the period measured. But across 97 calendar years in one historical dataset, only 5 finished between 8 and 12%. The average year is mathematically useful. It is emotionally misleading. From the end of 1999 through the end of 2009, the market produced an annualized total return of roughly negative 1%. An investor contributing $500 a month supplied $60,000. The account ended near $64,000. 10 years of discipline produced roughly $4,000 of growth. The clean model says the crossover point arrives around year 10. The lost decade says the account barely moved. This is sequence of returns risk. The order of good and bad years changes the experience. It is usually more dangerous when a retiree is withdrawing from a large portfolio. During accumulation, falling prices let each new deposit buy more shares. That does not erase the loss. But it gives Marcus a way to benefit if the market later recovers. The crossover is still not permanent. A portfolio can outgrow deposits 1 year. It can lose several years of deposits the next. Then it can cross the line again. The market does not know that Marcus's spreadsheet declared year 10 the takeover year. Eventually, though, the scale changes. Around $750,000, one 8% year produces about $60,000. That equals 10 full years of $500 monthly deposits. One 8% year can add a car-sized amount of money without another transfer from Marcus's paycheck. That is deep inside the dominance zone. But behavior still decides how much of the compounding he keeps. Over the 20 years ending in 2025, the average equity fund investor earned about 8.7% annually. The S&P 500 returned about 9.7%. In a simple $100,000 illustration, 9.7% for 20 years grows to roughly $637,000. At 8.7%, it grows to about $530,000. 1 percentage point creates a gap of roughly $107,000. That equals almost 18 years of Marcus's $500 monthly deposits. Not because the market failed, because investors bought, sold, paused, and panicked at the wrong times. So when does compound interest pay Marcus back? In the clean model, annual growth first beats his annual deposits around year 10 at 8%. But that is not a universal date. And $100,000 is not a universal trigger. The rough crossover balance is annual contributions divided by the expected return after costs. It is a line to calculate, Not a promise markets will respect every year. In real life, the takeover is a moving zone. And remember where Marcus began. In year 1, the account gained about $225. In year 30, the same model adds roughly $52,000 during that year alone. That is more than 200 times the first-year growth. Same monthly deposit, same assumed return, a much larger base. Calculate your own rough line. Then leave your monthly contribution, expected return, and crossover balance in the comments. The true takeover is not the first-year growth beats your deposits. It is the point where your balance is large enough, your costs are low enough, and your behavior is steady enough that your contributions are no longer the only force keeping the plan alive. That is when the portfolio stops being a pile of deposits and starts behaving like an asset.